Hello, I'm the Angry Spork, taking issue with the X-Files conspiracy. Last week, the Lone Gunmen were sent heaps of data, informing them of a viral outbreak that could kill millions in 2 weeks. The same virus their friends Mulder and Scully have just started investigating. The trio poked around the Ghostbusters firehouse, freed a ghost, saw it get captured again, and then heard Egon's theory about using a ghost and the Higgs singlet to send info back in time. Next stop, Massachusetts. X-Files Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles has a cover of a tragic headline of over 340 people dead from the virus. A pic of the turtles on a street corner, almost like they know there's a camera there.
Strike a pose.
And next to another shot of the gunman, probably taken from one of the promos for their show, is a snapshot of Leo, looking injured and kinda like he's melting. A wax figure came to life and isn't doing well in the summer heat. Who knew Madame Tussauds sculpted Ninja Turtles? Written by Ed Brisson, with art by Michael Walsh, Adam Gorham, and Jordi Belair, we begin in the woods of Northampton, where a guy named Chad is taking, let's assume his girlfriend, on a search for an alleged vampire cult. It's an area that's the source of previous sightings on nights with a full moon, like tonight, and Chad won't leave until he's gotten a pic of a vampire. No one online will be fooled by my Bela Lugosi action figure. Not after last time. His lady friend calls his attention, fairly loudly, to something in front of them. I have no major complaints about this story so far, but this girl looks way too much like Harper Row for my liking, so it's already on thin ice with me.
Urge to kill, fading, 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 rising!
Like the fusion of Peter Parker and Jimmy Olsen, he starts snapping away. At the reader? They've just discovered their characters in comic books, but we'll soon find out it's not as much fun since neither of them are Deadpool. After the photo is posted online, Ringo shows it on his tablet to Frohickean buyers. While they're still in New York, the Manphibian appears similar enough to the being in their data cache that if it's not the same individual, it's at least the same species. But it's pointed out that was in Northampton, meaning there's either more than one or they've been looking in a sewer for nothing. And given the choice, Langley opts for the location that does not involve trudging through human waste.
I hate this! Ew, I hope that thing that just floated by was a candy bar.
It's a little weird since in the previous comic they said they were headed to Massachusetts right after leaving the Ghostbusters place, but minor continuity flub. It's worth noting that this takes place during a time where the Turtles were recovering from a major loss to the Shredder and staying at the old O'Neill farm. A story that's been adapted in a few different ways, like in the first live-action movie, both the 03 and 2012 series, and so on. Leo is outside training, telling an approaching Donatello that he'd rather be alone. Yeah, one thing that distinguishes the IDW version from the others is that Leonardo was brainwashed into serving the Foot Clan for a bit, so he's understandably moody. Donnie gets that, but tells him that April saw the picture of him on the front page of SpookyMass.com, a site dedicated to local paranormal phenomena. He doesn't want to lecture his brother, and isn't going to tell the others for now, but does emphasize the need to be more careful. Leo apologizes for his mistake, but is too restless to just sit around. He needs to get out sometimes before going bonkers. Doesn't explain how you didn't hear those two people talking, with exclamation points, and the snapping of that camera when there was no one else in the woods. I guess he was really masked deep in a depression spiral. Don can relate, only having a 20-year-old computer with a 1200 baud dial-up modem that loaded the picture in question after an hour.
Nerd!
But assures him that the people running the site are idiots if they can't tell the difference between an amphibian and a reptile, so no one will take them seriously. Meanwhile, at the Contradiction, we go to the gunmen in their van parked outside a small pizza shop, where Langley has finished hacking into the laughably easy Northampton systems, and found out the past 4 months have seen 9 mysterious deaths by exsanguination, a term Frohicke doesn't recognize. So Bios explains it's basically draining of blood in Latin. Thank you, Dr. Demento. Yeah, well, Dr. Demento is friends with Weird Al, so I accept your compliment. Unless Dr. Demento is also known for his fluency in Latin, I'm not sure this comeback makes much sense the more you think about it. But whatever. Their files don't indicate the aliens, meaning the turtles, are vampiric in nature. Byers postulates that an alien biting a human could contaminate the latter's blood and carry the virus, if said human survived, unlike the others. On the more concrete front, the victims showed traces of chloral hydrate in their systems, were missing their shoes for some reason, and, hours before dying, all had ordered pizza from the shop they are currently loitering at. Langley figures the local police are too incompetent to notice the pizzeria connection, and who should knock on the door but the sheriff? "Any of you want to admit to shooting me, but deny shooting the deputy?" He asks Frohickey why he's been parked there for the past few hours, and the hacker nervously tells him it was just a little car trouble. That's all better now as he starts the vehicle, and they drive off. This, just as April O'Neil and Casey Jones walk into the restaurant. She feels guilty about how easily they can go out in public while leaving the brothers Hamato back in the barn, but Jones figures it's better not to hover over them, and it lets the two of them at least attempt a normal date and talk. He orders a large pie for them and 6 others with anchovies to go, for the turtles, and the cook turns to get working, giving a sinister smile. "They'll never suspect that their pizzas will be gluten-free." Outside, the turtles are across the street, Leonardo wanting to keep an eye on their friends since the Foot Clan are after them all, not just the turtles, and they should be fine as long as they stick to the rooftops. "Plus, Casey always forgets the anchovies, bro."
Wise man say forgiveness is divine, but never pay full price for late pizza.
At least Mikey's got his priorities straight. Meanwhile, down in the alley next to them, the Lone Gunmen are watching the restaurant, waiting to see if any vampire lizards do show up, and if asking them nicely for some of their blood and to stop killing people will work out. "I figured we'd make it up as we went." You can't improv your way through deadly situations. You're not Colin Mockery, Wayne Brady, or Ryan Stiles. You're not even Greg Proops, for crying out loud. Since the Fuzz saw their van, they can only stake out the place for so long, observe for now, and discern what they're dealing with, and that's when a chair is thrown through the window. "Part skim mozzarella! What madmen are in charge of this place?" They begin to head toward the pizzeria without much of a plan, and despite Frohickey's caution, when the turtles drop down in front of them to move in. You'd think they'd have at least looked around for any lingering civilians after that loud crash, but hey, their friends are in danger. Casey looks woozy and about to pass out as he threatens the cook, stealing an unconscious April's shoes, and when he hisses at the sight of the turtles, this sets Leo off as he delivers a flying kick. "Did you just hiss at me?" I was going to make a joke about Leo having a bad experience with a cat once, but then I remembered one of the turtles' oldest adversaries in IDW is a mutant cat named Old Hob, so it would be less a joke and more a commentary on his misplaced aggression. The gunmen play rock, paper, scissors to decide who asks for a blood sample when more townsfolk approach, led by the sheriff. Donnie identifies them as more vampire things, suggesting that they had dealt with these guys before, and Frohickey points out he thought the shellbacks were the vamps, since he doesn't know what they're supposed to look like. "They look like these dudes! You know, the ones with the glowing green eyes!" In fairness, vampires change in appearance given the time and location. Sometimes they look like pale, middle-aged, antisocial landowners. Sometimes they look like man-pretty high schoolers that sparkle. Sometimes they look like Nicolas Cage. Other times, they look like David Boreanaz. Kinda weird that they're talking to these complete strangers like they're already familiar with them. Sure, they're kinda busy getting overwhelmed, and the gunmen are crawling past the fracas for safety, but the brothers still don't seem very surprised by their presence. Langley calls Mulder for help, explaining that the alien search found a nest of bloodsuckers poisoning pizzas, probably with the chloral hydrate mentioned before. Mulder asks if one of the vamps is a heavy-set ginger with a fixation on shoes. That would be the cook, one Ronnie Strickland, whom the agent has encountered before. The brood he travels with goes to small towns, feasts on all the blood, then moves on. Fox suggests finding seeds or something similar to throw at them. No matter what, the vampires will stop what they're doing and start collecting them. Before he can elaborate further on the historical significance, Langley hangs up and tells the others what they need to do. Byers finds a jar of chili flakes, the three toss them on the ground, and sure enough, the vampires start picking up the particulates. "Leave them! Leave the flakes!" "Are you crazy? This restaurant is so far in the red we can't afford to waste anything! We cleaned the floors earlier, so the flakes should be fine. Oh, okay, the turtles probably got salmonella on the tile, but that'll burn away in the oven. The flakes are still good. The flakes are still good! This actually is part of old vampire lore, that the bloodsuckers could be distracted by spilled rice or grains of sawdust and instinctively start gathering and counting them, sometimes taking until sunrise to do so, and they would die. That's a good obscure reference on the writer's part. The vamps take Ronnie, blaming his troublemaking for forcing them to move again, and the sheriff tells the turtles they'll be going, and they don't have to see each other again. Like this was all just a big misunderstanding, and they'd like to mosey on to the next town. Before Clan Hamato can give chase, the gunmen stop them and ask for their blood. What, are you guys vampires too? If they are, then they're the unusually polite sort to be asking instead of, sinking their teeth into your necks for your blood. So, probably Canadian vampires. The trio explain about the virus that will kill millions, show some of the articles they've printed, and how without their alien blood, they can't reverse engineer a cure. Donatello points out they're mutants, not aliens.
I don't understand the difference.
I know you don't. Get him out of here!
And congratulates them on using Photoshop to make articles seem to be from days in the future. Considering them crazy, the turtles leave to go after the vampires, with Leo pausing as they plead how people not could, but will die. Later, the gunmen are driving on a dirt road, empty-handed. Langley figures they'll have to find a way to capture one of the turtles and take his blood by force, but his colleagues point out how unlikely it is that they'll get anywhere near them. Didn't you see the crazy ninja moves those mutants had?
Yeah!
They screech to a halt as Leonardo stands before them, swords drawn, looking all stoic and cool. Little wonder Frohickey assumes the worst. Instead, the turtle asks for proof of their claims, that people are threatened and that the gunmen are working with the FBI to prevent such a massive tragedy. So he sheathes his blades as Langley opens the side door and invites him in. Leo isn't going to be happy when he finds out their proof is a recalibrated old cootie catcher from their grade school days. They explain, with a little more detail than before, about the encrypted data they received, how it pointed to a virus that could potentially kill billions, and how a cure is being worked on, but might not be possible in time without the kind of mutated DNA that files indicated would belong to the turtles. As for who Leo might know that's capable of engineering such a disease, he says his clan has lots of enemies, so it's hard to say. A reincarnated ninja and his army of followers, a magical rodent man that controls rats, Michael Bay, fanboys that flip their lids whenever an alternate universe shows a version of April O'Neil that isn't in a form-fitting jumpsuit with exposed cleavage, that assistant manager at that one Walgreens. It's a lot to take in, but unfortunately there's not a lot of time, as Langley turns on several screens showing news reports of the virus already spreading. After a moment's pause, Leonardo agrees to help, but with a warning that if this is some manner of trick, and these three aren't who they claim to be, he and his brothers will pay them a less-than-friendly visit. The comic ends on Leo on the side of the road, watching the hackers drive away after, presumably, already donating some of his blood to the cause. On the plus side, he got a chocolate chip cookie. The Lone Gunmen always keep some on hand. Not for emergency blood donors, mind you. They just have really poor diets. Next up, X-Files Transformers, with pics featuring classic G1 looks for our bots as Bumblebee faces some troopers, and Prime does an iconic pose, possibly after dropping off that building. One of two vials of purple stuff spilled over, I assume because they're out of Sunny Delight, and I know I already used a Wes Anderson joke in the last episode, but yeah, this dude in the lab looks like it's from a deleted still from Isle of Dogs. Written by Paul Crilly, with art by Dheeraj Verma and Jonah LaFuente, we kick off now, as the gunmen are in a building being shot at by a helicopter, before they jump out the high windows. Are they reenacting John McClane's jump off the Nakatomi building? They must be real die-hard fans. We roll back 5 hours, when the three were in an empty lot, Langley making shadow puppets and Frohickey making notes of their recent encounters. Byers says that even though it's all true, time travel, mutated turtles, and ghost hunters, even an open-minded guy like Mulder would take convincing, so it might be too outlandish for their usual publication. I mean, maybe most of it, yeah, but the Ghostbusters are well known in New York, as are the spectral threats they deal with. Seems like, if nothing else, the Big Apple would believe their magazine. Though it may be better to leave well enough alone. Wouldn't want this to get to Leonardo and make him rethink his trust in you, right? Langley confirms this is where his contact from one of his online forums said to meet, and that's when a truck and a sports car drive up. And speaking of things Mulder wouldn't likely believe, the vehicles transform, respectively, into Optimus Prime and Bumblebee.
I am shocked. Shocked. Well, not that shocked.
Which one of you uses the alias Lord Manhammer? We have traveled across the stars to tell you that is an incredibly juvenile and tacky name, and you should feel shame for your race for using it. Goodbye now.
Langley fesses up that it's his email, and B gets in his face, wanting to know where Ratchet is, or else he'll stand on him, claiming to have done it before. I think you mean step on him, which would be a really weird mistake to make, but as long as you don't pee on the guy, do whatever. Optimus clarifies they mean their friend Ratchet, not a low-tech tool, but the gunmen have no idea since these are the first giant talking robots they've ever seen. Analyzing their heart rates and determining they're being truthful, they introduce themselves, saying they're from the planet Cybertron. Cool!
I know, right?
So cool you forgot he just threatened to turn you into a long-haired smear on the ground. Prime assures they're not here to invade, as Frohickey cynically suggested.
We have been on your planet for centuries now. We seem to have taken the task of protecting your race. Yes, we seem to be protecting you. But for all we know, you want to be eradicated by space tyrants. We're just trying to be polite is all.
Yeah, while the designs for the bots seem very much inspired by the Bay films, these versions of the Transformers may be their own thing, not connected to any pre-established continuity, like, say, the main IDW title at the time. Because I can't tell if Prime fighting this robot tendril thing is a reference to an actual story or not. And the flashback makes him look more like his car robot's design, and his arm blades look different than they did on the previous page. But moving on, Ratchet was investigating a mysterious signal that may have been the Decepticons returning, but he was ambushed, only able to send out a garbled message with the name Skylogic before comms went dead. The Autobots monitored internet traffic looking for the name, and thought the Lone Gunmen might be involved with them when they started asking around, setting up a trap for the bots. Langley says their working theory is that Skylogic engineered the virus that's going around, when Frohickey warns him not to spill all their secrets. In Pig Latin, which doesn't actually escape the bots' understanding, but Ringo says it's fine because they're on the same side.
Course we are, right, Optimus? So it seems.
There's that use of the word seem again. It's very vague, ambiguous, like their causes being aligned is mostly by appearances. It just feels very weird the way Prime is saying it, even if it's meant to be more stoic and reserved like he's known to be. I could understand if he were just not trusting these guys right away, but if that were the case, why transform in front of them instead of using a hollow avatar or something before knowing more? Especially if he was already suspicious that this was a trap. Frohickey yields as he and Byers elaborate that the virus has alien DNA as one of its components, which B figures must have been from Ratchet. The trio have hit one dead end after another looking to Skylogic, and the best they've got is video of the guy who released the virus, but it's too pixelated to see his face. This exchange kind of overlooks that there were two people there, but maybe only one dropped his face mask. Optimus is shown the footage per his request, and enhances the image, I guess because he's an advanced space robot, and searches through all their surveillance cameras. Like, the whole country? Anyway, he finds the perp, one David Simmons, sending his cell number to Frohickey. I think he's interrupted by Langley and Bumblebee having a bit of a joyride, for which Byers apologizes. Prime does the same, saying B doesn't always take things as seriously as he should. So threatening to smush a guy he thought had captured his friend was his idea of being lighthearted? And I gotta say, Simmons looks very different from what we saw in issue 1. Could be because he's not all geared up, could be that he's bald, could be the completely different skin color. I just couldn't tell you for the life of me. Frohickey calls Mulder with the name, stealthily saying they had access to specialized hardware to work through the pixelation issue, and that Simmons used his credit card in Connecticut not long ago. After some quick digging, Mulder finds he also used it at a skeevy-sounding motel 4 days ago, and sends over the address. Soon enough, they're knocking on David's door, forcing their way inside, and even more quickly do they manage to overpower him, bind his arms, then take him to another location for questioning. Awful expedient for guys that we have not seen be particularly physical in this story so far. B tries playing bad cop to get info out of him, though makes the mistake of outright saying he's the bad cop. But hey, he's a giant robot that punches the ground. That should still be intimidating. The gunmen say they have footage of their captive at the site of the first viral outbreak, where over 40 people died. But Simmons insists that wasn't supposed to happen. The virus was meant to protect people from having their personal spaces invaded, obviously. Hence all those spikes, to keep everyone else at bay. A couple years back, David and a few other scientists were approached by the government with proof of the Cybertronians' existence, thus alien life, and told they had harmful intent, allying with a secret organization to create alien-human hybrids for a genocidal invasion. How would giant robots and humans create a living being? Are you sure they weren't talking about collaborating on more efficient hybrid cars? They captured Ratchet, took his blood, likely meaning energon, broke it down and combined it with the base contagion using the mutated human DNA. It was intended to only affect the alleged hybrids, wiping them out before they could get a foothold. But the field test at the apartment building obviously didn't go as planned. Was it planned? They never mentioned having intel or even suspicions that a supposed hybrid was in the area. If the intent was to see if it was harmless to non-human hybrids, the innocent, unknowing people living there, well, this guy deserves zero sympathy regardless of what he was led to believe. Simmons has been in hiding, waiting on a fake passport to flee the country, as his superiors plan on releasing a larger batch of the virus soon, claiming to have perfected it. But that seems unlikely in so short a time, and the whole country will be infected and dead after a week. Having only worked at Skylogic, he doesn't know where the virus is being manufactured, since their research was sent to another lab. After he gives over Skylogic's address, our heroes are outside their building, B and Langley wanting to go in guns a-blazing.
I'd rather rush in and start breaking things.
However, they're convinced to be more stealthy, like Ninja, and since Bumblebee is smaller and will maneuver inside easier than Prime, he'll accompany the humans, after he's scanned one of Skylogic's vehicles. As they approach the gate, B, in the form of a jeep, projects a hollow matter avatar over Frohickey, making him appear as someone already inside the base, which feels like a really good way to get caught in case the guard knows this guy is already inside, but rolling down the window halfway and talking tough is so sufficiently convincing that they're let in with no incident. Once out of sight, the Autobot sheds his camouflage.
I hate military alt modes. Makes me feel so dirty.
But John Cena's character saluted you at the end of your movie. Is everything a lie? As per Simmons' info, they make way to level 45, where they find Ratchet hooked up to a containment device with no security, oddly enough. Feels like something they'd want to keep constant tabs on, but whatever. They use Simmons' codes to free him, but it also activates an alert that draws in numerous armed guards. B holds them off, and I don't think the guys inside those fireballs are just knocked out, while the gunman vamoose. After Byers gets the address where Skylogic's research was sent and the virus created. I don't know why it's on Hello Kitty stationery, but let's not overthink it. However, when the scout seems overwhelmed by an electromagnetic device, Langley ignores warnings to leave, grabs a weapon, and provides backup, because ninja buddies don't leave ninja buddies behind. Ninja buddies forever! What did he say? Ninja buddies forever. Huh, thought so. Sounds like he's the writer of the next direct-to-video Air Bud sequel. Terminate with extreme prejudice. Ringo manages to hit the cannon that's immobilizing B, and they all make way upstairs. Wow, those bots really are nimble. Ratchet is coming around as they reach an empty floor, and B shoots out the window, asking the gunman to trust him when he suggests they jump. When they do just that, he turns to Ratchet, who knows what to do. While Bumblebee takes out the attack chopper, the medic jumps out after the humans, grabs them, then transforms on the way down, hitting one of the lower roof sections, then hitting pavement, and when the Autobots are all gathered, they drive off. And I'm sure the nerds didn't feel the impact of at least 2 landings whatsoever, because he's an alien robocar from beyond the moon!
Not scientifically possible!
Later, the bots let their new allies keep the sample of Ratchet's blood so they can use it to cure the virus. Prime would like to help them further, but without knowing how Skylogic discovered them in the first place, it's possible they're being tracked somehow, in which case they'll head north to buy the hackers some time. B thanks the not hippie for coming back for him, the ninja buddies say farewell, and Langley gets misty-eyed as the Cybertronians take off.
You okay? Yeah, sure. Just got something in my eye. I was looking for information about a virus. He threatened to crush me under his foot. It was a thing we had.
Later in a motel room, possibly the same place they found Simmons, I'm not sure, Frohige tells Mulder they found the location where the virus is being made and will soon head to Atlanta to give Scully their samples at the CDC. Everything seems to finally be going right as the issue ends, with several armed figures in tactical gear gathering outside their room. Skylogic henchmen or really aggressive turn-down service? Find out next week as we look at the final 2 chapters of this story. I'm the Angry Spork, and man, have I got issues.